Hey, so I'm finally getting around to doing a video about the steps I take and the information I use to help me determine if I'm comfortable enough engaging in certain activities out on the frozen lake. I'm up here in New Hampshire. It's a beautiful time of year. There's a whole host of things that you can do if you're comfortable being out on the ice. And ever since I was a little kid, I've learned a lot of tricks and tips to help me determine if I feel comfortable being out here. And I'm going to share those today. So before I go out on the ice, I make sure I have a few essential items. I have these picks that I can use to pull myself out of a hole and up onto good ice should I have an error in judgment and go through. I have a large stick that I can use to pound on the ice, and I can hear the tone, the frequency of the vibrations in the ice, and I can feel the vibrations under my feet to see how much the ice is deflecting. And I also have cordless drill with a boring bit, and there's nothing boring about it because I can drill into the ice and get a thickness measurement in about 5 seconds. The other critical information that I use is linked down in the description of this video. They are ice studies and ice recommendations that are used by some state agencies that are backed by the physics and the observations that have been made about ice break strength. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my video. So I'm going to get out on the ice. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is kind of observe the lake. And there's a couple things I do. As I do a visual inspection, I look at the ice, I look at the characteristics of the ice so I can look for consistencies in the different types of ice as I'm testing it and correlate that back to what I'm seeing. I also want to listen and hear if I can see if I can hear the lake cracking, because stress cracks will have a certain pitch to them. Kind of like if you're ever a kid, or when I was a kid, we would throw rocks across the ice and they would go boop, 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 boop. And that's very, very thin ice, has a high pitched sound. And as the weekends went by and we got deeper into the winter, the rocks would make a boop, 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 boop. Before I go out on the ice, I select a good sized rock here. And I just throw it up and see what sound it makes. That was a pretty good thwack. It wasn't high pitched, it just cracked the ice. There's no spider cracks coming off of that rock. So I feel pretty good walking out there. So between what I'm observing of this ice and what I hear, I can test where I'm going to step with my stick. That's solid. I don't really feel many vibrations in my feet, so I'm using my eyes, I'm using my ears, and I'm using the feeling of vibrations. Because if you think of ice like think of it like a piece of paper, right? Thin ice, piece of paper would be like maybe a 1/2 inch thick to 1 inch thick. It's going to make a high-pitched sound. Vibrations are going to carry through it really easy because it's thin and it's flexible, and if you were to walk on it, you would see it flex. And now if you had a piece of cardboard, that might be something more like 12 inches of ice. It's relatively stiff. It's not gonna flex as much as that piece of paper, so I would expect that, you know, if I jumped up and down on it or banged something hard, I'm not going to feel as many vibrations through thicker ice. And this is not theory. This is all based on observation. And it, oops, sorry about that, also happens to be backed up by physics. So I'm going to walk out here, and judging by the sound that rock made, I'm going to guess 6 to 7 inches. So yeah, I would put that just a bit over 6 inches. So as I walk out on this ice sheet, I'm just gonna say, hey, if I see ice like this, that feels like that, and I'm listening to the reverberations out around me too, I'm gonna feel comfortable walking on it. I see this crack here is where 2 sheets of ice separated. Water came up in between and froze. So again, based on my observations, I feel comfortable. This ice is a little bit more clear, but you can see that, I can see that white halo down in there. I can actually see that about 6 or 7 inches down. You can also use your eyes and look down and see the pine needles that are kind of frozen down in there. Kind of like the saber-toothed tiger in Ice Age before they defrosted it. Was that a saber-toothed tiger? I don't remember. But anyway, I'm going to walk out here a little bit further and keep testing as I go. Now, I do notice that I can hear off the shoreline and in that cove a certain pitch. It's like a oonk, oonk, oonk. So I kind of say, if I hear that sound, I'm probably standing on 6 to 7 inches. Okay, so I've worked my way out here to a section of black ice. And it looks very, see how it's shiny and dark? Looks very different from the ice around it. But if I'm observing in here these ribbons, I can kind of see the thickness of the ice. And again, I'm gonna bang on it. There's no spider cracks of the ice. It sounds relatively consistent with what I've been hearing. Now it's getting awfully clear, and you know that usually wigs me out because clear means, like in my mind, water, right? But I'm standing on it and I'm looking down in there, and I can see bubbles, air bubbles trapped down in there at a pretty good depth. So I'm just gonna send this drill down. See it. All right, so this, well, you know, it was still pulling a good 6 inches. Thought it might be a little bit thinner, but it's still 6 inches, even though it looks relatively frightening. See, now this here looks thinner, and I'm getting a higher pitch sound, kind of like a doot 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 doot. So now I'm wondering if this is more like 5. I lost track of where it broke through. Okay, so I can actually see it right there. Nope, still 6. But the quality of the ice is it's giving a different pitch and sound because it's probably a bit more dense than the ice over by the shoreline, which probably has a bit more air trapped in it. So it's giving me a little bit of a pitch to it. But again, I'm gonna trust my eyes, and just, if I want to, I can walk along these ribbons here. So I know that I'm walking on ice that's relatively that I'm relatively comfortable is going to support me. And getting back over to some of this white ice, and just going to do a quick comparison here. So we'll take some of this whiter ice. So that, you know, it's about the same thickness as the black ice. So it could just be how and when it froze. All right, so I'm gonna go out past these islands to that area that froze last. As I'm walking, I can hear the ice cracking off in the distance. I can hear the expansion. Boop, boop, boop. Sounds like about consistent, you know, 5 to 7 inches. That's what that sounds like to me. So there were a lot of ice studies done back in the 70s, and one was actually done in Canaan, New Hampshire, in a couple different ponds, where they took blocks out of the ice and they did displacement tests on the blocks to see what the breaking strength would be when the blocks were deflected. And they found that ice can hold anywhere from 250 pounds of pressure per square inch. And the weakest they measured was 50. 50 is what I use for my calculations on whether or not I'm comfortable taking a certain amount of weight out on the ice. But, you know, new black ice on a very cold day, according to observations, you know, can hold well over 200 pounds per square inch. So if you take 6 inches of ice, there's a specific formula. It's the thickness of the ice squared. So that's 6 times 6 multiplied by the coefficient of strength. So I'm going to call it 50 pounds per square inch. I always use the weakest coefficient that they found in those studies. So 6 times 6, 6 inches of ice, 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 50 is 1,800. So 1,800 pounds of static load is what 6 inches of ice should be able to support. And technically, I suppose it could be up to 7,200 pounds, but me personally, I'm not comfortable. So I always operate on the lowest range, and bearing in mind that, you know, temperatures, weather conditions, condition of the ice all plays a role. So black ice is going to be your strongest ice. New ice is going to be your strongest ice. Cold days are going to be the days when ice is a lot stronger than warm days. And of course, if you have white ice and slush mixed with a lot of snow from recent snowfalls, and you drill through the ice and you get a lot of white ice, that's going to be even weaker because of the air trapped within it. So I'll put links in the description of this video if you have an interest in delving into a little bit of the knowledge that I put with my observations to help me determine whether or not the ice I'm standing on, I'm comfortable doing certain things like ice fishing or snowmobiling or traveling in groups. And something I always like to keep in mind is if I have 4 inches of ice, 4 inches of ice going to support, so 4 times 4 is 16. It's going to support 800 pounds, but I'm not really comfortable being out there on a snowmobile, because if it breaks down, now it's sitting there, right? So I want to make sure that the ice is definitely, absolutely, 100% in that I feel comfortable. It's going to support my level of activity. So that's kind of just where my head's at when I'm out here looking at these things. So I just wanted to back up because I was just thinking, man, it's been so cold. It would be nice to have some water to do a vibration test. And I was walking along, and I was just about to step right here when I looked to my left, and I saw the water shimmering. If you can see it shimmering from my vibrations as I'm walking, and I was just about to step on that. Well, now here it's 6 inches. Here it's not. So my foot was just about to go up to my knee in water, but I happened to be looking for some open water to test vibrations. So let's open that up. Now I'm out here on the ice, and I'm walking by, and I'm gonna jump on the ice, but let me put a couple of things down here so I can really get my hands free. So I'm gonna jump on the ice, and you can see how it's moving up and down. So that's what it looks like when I'm on 6 inches of ice and I go by a shoreline or an ice fisherman's hole and I see the water moving up and down. I do that too when I'm on my snowmobile or something moving. I will, if I see a fisherman's hole that's been left behind and they're done fishing for the day, there's no trap in it, I'll drive by and I'll circle the hole, and I'll see how much of the vibration is translating through that open hole of water. And it kind of gives me a visual reference point to compare with, the different thicknesses I see. Oh yeah, that looks like it usually does when it's 8 inches, or it usually does when it's 6 inches. And the reason I'm able to correlate that is because I've come out here and I've done sound tests. And then I've drilled the ice and I said, oh, that's what 4 inches sounds like. Oh, that's what 6 inches looks like when I bounce up and down on it. Oh, okay. And for giggles, let's drill. I want to see right when I break. Okay, right there. You know, so yeah, you know, definitely solid 6.5. And this is just, why was this open? Because that's radiant heating and wind. So the sun's heating the rocks, the wind's blowing the water around the rock, and it just didn't freeze out that far. There's another open patch of water up ahead. And you can see the little vibrations coming through the ice as I'm walking by. It's a good little point of reference while I'm out here. Because if I see that starting to vibrate a lot, then I know I'm on thin ice. So I'll be quite honest, this is why I come out here and check. And this is why I say know before you go and check for yourself. Because if I look on this side of the islands, that ice is, I'm comfortable with that ice. And when I look right here, I see water. I also see 6 inches of ice on the other side of it, but I see water. So if I came up over this island with my snowmobile, that's not going to end well. So now I'm making a mental note that when I'm out here, this side of these islands is not a good place to be riding. You know, maybe out there, sure, but right here, no. All right, I want to relay something, because I'm looking over on that shoreline way over there, and I'm seeing a little bit of white ice all along that shoreline. Now this out here is what froze last. Now we've already seen the water along the shoreline. I'm not convinced it's 6 inches out there. So I'm gonna take this here rock and see if we can listen. If that's 3, I'd be shocked. I'm not going out there to find out. Now I'm gonna come back over to the other side of these islands over here. Let's do the sound test. It still has a pitch to it, but it's got a lot more bass, which tells me 6, 7, yeah. And over there, it might be 4. It might be 4, 5. But I don't like what I'm hearing. So, okay, so I sucked it up and trusted some of the physics that I'm talking about, and decided to come out here. And it is getting down to about 5 inches. So I'm not entirely thrilled about this ice sheet, but at least now I know. And I do trust that 5 times 5 is 25 times 50. You know, that's 1,200 pounds, so I think I weigh a little bit less than that. So that's pretty much it. Those are the tools I use, and that's the information that I use to help determine if the ice is, if I feel comfortable that the ice is enough to support my level of desired activity. So be safe, have a great winter, have many great winters, and I hope you check out the information that I link down in the description. Take care.